night in the sky, you cannot see a butterfly. Look through the window, realize all you see is for you and I. In your dreams, through the nights, every moment that passes by, look to the heavens, hands spread wide, thanking Allah the Most High. There is no God but Allah, Muhammad is His messenger.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome our dear viewers to the second episode of the program New Muslim Guide, a program designed for new Muslims who need to be shown the way, the path, so that they could be directed and follow the correct path of the Messenger Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Also a guide for born Muslims as well. Maybe the born Muslims could benefit from this and share these teachings and the details and information with a new Muslim as well. So in the first program, in the first episode, we talked about the significance of converting to Islam, and we did share with you a very interesting story, a touching story by our beloved brother Samuel Shropshire, a new Muslim from the USA. In this episode, inshallah, we're going to talk about why we were created, something that crosses the minds of many people, including and especially the new Muslims. So they take their shahada, they say, La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah, Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. They understand some basic beliefs, but once they come into the fold of Islam, they forget the reason, or they lack the knowledge of why they were created. So inshallah, we would like to elaborate a little bit more on this and talk about the pillars of the purpose of our creation, bi'idhnillah. Brother Sam, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Rayan.
Alhamdulillah. Now, in the previous episodes, you shared with us an inspiring story, and that really touched my heart. May Allah bless you, reward you, and keep you firm upon His religion. In this episode, inshallah, we want to talk about why we're recreated. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say, what did you used to believe in regards to the purpose of life before you came to Islam?
As a Christian, in some churches, Protestant especially, we have a series of questions. It's called catechism. For instance, in the Presbyterian Church or Reformed Church, the first question of the catechism is, what is the chief purpose of man? Why do we exist? Each of these questions also has an answer. The answer to question one, what is the chief purpose of man, is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever.
Yeah.
Now, that's incredible. I mean, to glorify and to experience God. For me, it was to experience Allah, to know the God of Ibrahim in a very personal relationship, which I came to know in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, just 4.5 years ago.
Alhamdulillah.
So I thank you for your work with Islamic Education Foundation and what it's meant in my life.
Alhamdulillah. May Allah accept it from both of us. You know, some people come to me and are interested to learn more about Islam. They want more details in regards to what Islam is about. Sometimes when we approach people and we ask them, what is your idea of Islam? What is your concept on the belief of Islam? They give us accurate information sometimes, and a lot of people are inaccurate. They have the wrong ideologies or the wrong beliefs about Islam. And as I said in the previous episode, we don't blame a lot of them because not many people are approaching them and sharing with them the details. But some of them say, when we ask them, what is your purpose of life? Why were you created? They say that I was created to enjoy this life, to get a job, get married, have children, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that is, according to the Islamic belief, a minor purpose, right?
Yeah.
We have a major purpose And underneath that, we have minor purposes or reasons for our creations. We know that the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the glorious Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me. So we as Muslims believe that the reason we were created is to worship the Almighty Allah. No other reason. That's the main purpose. Underneath that main purpose are minor reasons that help us attain the main reason. So for example, I sleep, I have a job, I get married, I have children, I take care of people. These are minor reasons, but these all fall under the category of worship in the Almighty Allah. You see, if you are unable to sleep at night, you won't be able to worship Allah, right?
Correct.
If you do not get married and have children, you may worship Allah but feel that something is missing. So then you'll be less focused on worshiping Allah and more focused on searching for that thing that is missing. If you are worshiping Allah but you don't have a job, then you will eventually stop worshiping Allah or cut down on the forms of worship and go out and search for a job. And this reminds me of a time Umar ibn al-Khattab, one time he saw, you know Umar ibn al-Khattab, right?
Yes.
A companion of the Messenger of Allah. He saw a person worshiping Allah in the masjid, in the mosque. Day and night, this person would pray in the mosque. So Umar ibn al-Khattab asked him, who is supporting you? Who's taking care of you? He said, my brother is. My brother works and I worship Allah. Umar ibn al-Khattab said, your brother is closer to Allah and more obedient to Allah than you are. Why? Because life is about working and bringing in income so you could support yourself, so you could support your family, instead of relying on somebody. So Umar ibn Khattab told this person that your brother is closer to Allah than you. The concept here is that we shouldn't only focus on worshiping Allah and forget about trying to gain benefits from this world. So the benefits of this world is the minor purpose, and the major purpose is to worship the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you came to Islam, how did you perceive this?
My belief in Islam, as I mentioned earlier, in Christianity, I was taught that the chief end of man is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. Not just in the big things, in the issue of faith, but also in the little things that we do in daily life, how we conduct our lives. But this connection really came to my life through Islam, because it's very clear in the Quran that we are to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. That's the chief purpose of our existence. But I saw it in reality practiced here in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East, through the lives of my Muslim friends whom I saw who so loved God and worshipped God, not just through the 5 daily prayers, but in everything they did in every daily part of their life. This is so important.
This reminds me one time, a ruler, a leader, he saw that in Mecca, the people who are praying or are about to pray, when they hear the call for prayer, they stand in lines within 10 to 20 seconds. Everybody is standing in line, Like for example, somebody is sitting down and eating, another person is lying down sleeping, one is reading, another one is, tying the shoes of his children or something like that. And once they hear the call for prayer, it takes about 10 seconds or 15 seconds for all of them to stand in lines and direct themselves to the Kaaba, the black stone, which is underneath the throne of the Almighty Allah. In only those short seconds, the ruler said, I am amazed, impressed by this. He is a non-Muslim. He said, I am impressed by this. It takes about 10 seconds for you to stand in lines, and it takes my soldiers minutes and sometimes weeks for them to stand in a line. So we see that worship in Allah gathers us together. It creates that bond for us to worship the Almighty Allah. And that is the purpose of our creation. When He said, I did not create you, humans and jinn. Now, we see that there is a difference between humans and jinn. Allah mentioned humans as in the children of Adam. You and I are humans. The jinn are the unseen. They are created from smokeless fire. They could see us, but we could not see them. They were created before we were created. Satan, the devil, he is created from smokeless fire, and he is a jinn. They have tribes, they have children, they have families, they get married, they work just like us, and they even die as well. So Allah created them and us humans for the same purpose, and that is to worship the Almighty Allah. And when we realize this significance of worshiping Allah, this brings us closer to each other and it allows us to bond. Let me ask you a question, speaking about this. How closer did you get to the people when you reverted to Islam?
When I came to Islam, I realized that every personal relationship that I had and would have is important to God, and how they see me and how I conduct myself toward them. But it became more natural for me to love others and to care about their needs as a Muslim than I was as a Christian.
So you became more compassionate in regards to showing feelings and empathy as a Muslim.
Yes.
You started helping them, supplying them with some of their needs, perhaps?
Yes. I became a servant to other people.
Okay, so you were always at their service.
Yes.
You try to help them with whatever you can.
Inshallah.
And we know that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, the most beneficial of you for the people is the best of the people. So those who are closest to Allah the most are those who are very beneficial to the people. Not to be selfish, not to say it's all about me and that's it, you know, nafsi, nafsi, myself and myself. Not to do that, but to help yourself and to help others as well.
This was a concern of mine, even as a Christian. I was involved in human rights for some 35 years, working with U.S. Congress, British and Canadian parliaments on behalf of persecuted Christians, Jews, and Muslims around the world. Now, after becoming a Muslim, I asked God, what should I do now? What talents do I have to help persecuted Muslims and Christians and Jews in other parts of the world?
So you felt that you were inspired by Allah
Yeah,
for you to use your talents.
Continue doing what I was doing, but now in the name of Islam.
Alhamdulillah. Great. That's a very interesting point you just mentioned. We're going to take a break, inshallah. We will be back after the break. Thank you.
There is no God but Allah. Muhammad is His messenger.
TV commercials motivate viewers into immediate action and to sway consumer loyalty from one brand or service to the other. That's why we're here for you, to help you sell your products and services by using creative ideas that bring life into your own TV commercial. Advertise your business and branded products and services on Huda TV. We will offer you fast-paced and energetic 30-second affordable TV spots. Advertise on Huda TV. Acquire fresh customers and stay within your budget. For more info or to receive a quote, please send your inquiries to advert@Huda TV. Huda TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk.
I could agree that institutional racism does exist, and to be precise, we should define institutional racism, and that is hidden or non-apparent racism within an organization or an institution. I have witnessed it, maybe in half Saudi. My last name is Arab. So when I moved to the States back in 2002, after the incidents of 9/11, I did face some racism.
I think it can be what you do, but in the sense of without thinking. The things you do naturally without having to stop and think, that just come out.
Okay.
You know, this innate nature of you, and how you think, and the way you see things.
we can get your insights on the two different countries, inshallah, further on into this conversation. Mamadou, if I can come to you, what's your thoughts on institutional racism, especially in the UK? Do you think it's really prevalent there?
The way we live, it's kind of a combination of two things: our language, and then what we believe in. So if we have got a language without believing in something, so it will be useless. So we have to get like both things going together.
I'm calling your name, oh Allah. There is no God but Allah, Muhammad is his messenger.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back to the program New Muslim Guide. In this segment, inshallah, we are going to talk about abstaining from sin. And we know that that is considered a form of worship, for me to abstain from sin. Brother Sam, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Great to have you back.
Thank you.
Now, abstaining from sin is a factor that many Muslims try to fulfill because they know that abstaining from sin is what's going to lead us. It's what's going to lead us to paradise, and it's going to be a reason for us to earn Allah's mercy and forgiveness. Before Islam, how was it for you? Did you have that feeling of having a barrier between you and sin? Or were you open to committing sins and not really caring?
I didn't care about sin. Okay? It was something that was, I didn't really care about the way I lived. For me, drinking alcohol or other behavior was a way of covering up some of the depression that I faced in the United States. But then when I became a Muslim, I found out that, and I knew naturally that I don't want to put a barrier between me and Allah, between me and God. And that if I truly want to worship Him, if I truly want to honor Him through prayer, that I must come to Him with a clean heart, with a clean mind, and physically clean in His presence.
Good. So after Islam, you had this emotion or something that held you back.
Epiphany.
Because you were thinking of the consequences, right? Before Islam, you probably weren't thinking of the consequences so much. You probably didn't even know that there were consequences. And you were driven into sin without you even feeling. You probably thought that these sins are good actions. Some people say
it's fun.
Some people say, no, I'm not killing anybody, so it's not considered a sin. Some people think that only killing people is the sin. I could fornicate, I could lie, I could cheat. As long as I'm not harming anybody else, then it's not a sin. The reality is that in Islam, we have major sins and minor sins. The major sins are the ones that, are big don'ts, try to avoid completely. And the minor sins are things that are, things that we should avoid, but if we fall into them, they are easily forgiven if we ask Allah to forgive us. And many people commit all of these minor sins thinking that it's easy to get away with after they come to Islam. They're like, oh, there's just, they're minor sins. The reality is 100 minor sins or 10 minor sins could be equivalent to one major sin in terms of consequences. And we like to be safe from these consequences. And we know that Allah is the most merciful, the most compassionate. He is the all-forgiven. And He created us to worship Him. And when we worship Him in the right way and we seek His forgiveness and His mercy, He forgives us for our sins. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, we know that God, Allah, is the lawgiver. He created the law, the list of do's and don'ts.
He is the lawgiver.
And this is called the ontological argument for His existence, because this natural law is in the hearts of all men, no matter what their religion, around the world. We know not to commit adultery. We know not to do this. We know not to steal. We know not to...
It's like an instinct.
Yes, it's built within us. It's God's creation within humankind. But the power to resist is resisting sin and temptation. And what Satan intends to harm us, God can use for good, but we need to go on this jihad, of spiritual jihad, of resisting temptation, of creating right kinds of relationships with others.
To fight the evil desires, to go against those evil desires.
Fighting constantly within us. And we have help through our brothers and sisters and through faith in Allah. And by doing what He told us to do, the simple things, the 5 daily prayers, the study of the Quran, the assistance in helping others who cannot help themselves. By doing these things, we glorify God and we enjoy Him, and He strengthens us spiritually inside.
And as a result, we earn a reward from Him, a tremendous reward. We know that the main thing a Muslim believes is monotheism. You know, that's the Muslim belief. For me to believe that there is one God alone, He alone deserves to be worshipped. He is the controller of this universe. He is the one who brought us to this life. He is the one who will cause us to die. He is our only provider. Nobody provides besides Him. You may work in a company and your boss gives you your monthly salary, or the finance department gives you your monthly salary every month. But we know that they are just a reason that Allah used. The reality is Allah is the one who gave you that monthly salary. We acknowledge that He is in control of the universe, the rain, the thunders, the storms, the hurricanes, the volcanoes, the tornadoes. All of this is done by the Almighty Allah. The clouds, how beautiful they are. The sky, how it's highly built and designed. The earth, how it seems as though it is flat, but it is circular. The different planets, the universe, everything is created by Him alone, and He is in control of all of this. So doesn't He deserve to be worshipped alone after creating all of this? Your beautiful eyes, your blue eyes created by Allah, your nose you could smell with, your mouth, your hands you could touch, you could walk with your feet. This beauty is created from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the beauty that He created means that He has more beauty with Him. Some beauty that He is withholding. Perhaps when we meet Him we could see it. He has more mercy. We see this mercy. I say good words to you, you say good words to me. You raise your children on the right way. You're merciful towards them. Allah has more mercy with Him that He withheld on the Day of Judgment, so that we could see this mercy if we believe in Him, if we believe in His existence, if we believe that He alone deserves to be worshipped. You see, one point is that He is in control of everything. We believe this, we acknowledge this. But not many people believe that He alone deserves to be worshipped. Some people say, I believe in God, I believe in Allah, but I don't believe that He deserves to be worshipped alone. I should worship somebody with Him, ascribe partners with Him. And when we look into the biography of the Prophet Muhammad, we see that he was sent to a nation of people who believed in Allah. They believed that there is one God above, but they used to worship idols to bring them closer to the Almighty Allah. So part of worshiping and believing in Him is to direct ourselves towards Him. To say, oh Allah, directly.
There's always this thought in the human mind that that Allah is unapproachable, except through some form of mediation. So you go to Mary, or you go to Christ and you ask them to pray for you because you're unworthy to approach God.
Which is wrong.
Which is wrong. And God wants us to come to Him in prayer and requesting directly from Him forgiveness and atonement for our sins.
Correct. The thing is that many people, they see Allah, or they compare Allah to a human being. So when you work in a company, the CEO of the company, it's not really easy for you to meet him, right? You cannot step foot in his office that easily. You have to go to him through somebody. So people use this comparison. They say, oh, if it's difficult for me to go to a CEO directly, that means it's difficult for me to direct myself to the Almighty Allah.
Yeah.
The reality is
Totally different.
Allah is uncomparable to anybody.
Yeah.
لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing like unto Him, He said in the glorious Quran. So in this case, what should we do if we're suffering difficulties or if we need our problems to be solved? To direct ourselves to the Almighty Allah.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've noticed a big difference after you came to Islam compared to before Islam. But you used to believe that there is one God. Did you used to direct yourself to Him directly?
I prayed and I tried to make myself acceptable to Him. I knew of His existence, but it was not the same personal relationship that I have today. Knowing the God, the most merciful, the greatest, the distributor of mercy, being able to fellowship and communicate with Him on a direct basis and not through any mediator.
Great. You know, one of the good scholars, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, may Allah have mercy on him. He is a scholar of Tawheed, monotheism. He helped bring the Ummah back together. There was a lot of corruption going on during his time. There were a lot of innovations. People were worshipping idols, or people were worshipping men to get closer to Allah. He corrected their beliefs, and this man was here correcting the beliefs of people not too long ago, like 100 and something years ago. So he said, التوحيد لابد أن يكون بالقلب الذي هو العلم. Monotheism must be attained through the heart, wherewith is the knowledge. The heart is where the knowledge is. واللسان الذي هو القول. And the tongue wherewith is the speech, the utterance. Confessions. والعمل الذي هو تنفيذ الأوامر والنواهي. And the actions wherewith is located the obedience and the avoiding or abstaining from sins. So we see that three things. With these three things you can achieve monotheism. You can understand your purpose of life. Why were you created? Number one, your heart. Number two, the tongue. Number three, your body. For you to pray using your hands. For you to prostrate using your forehead and your knees. For you to kneel down using your legs and your back. So with these three things you can attain monotheism. Very interesting details, aren't they?
So by this you mean we bear witness to God through our actions and through our mind, our thinking, and our speech.
Yes, with three things. With the heart, with the speech, for you to say, "Oh Allah, forgive me. Oh Allah, have mercy on me. Oh Allah, protect me from the hellfire." And for you to believe that Allah is the one who will protect you. For you to believe that Allah is the one who will admit you into paradise. And for you to act upon that belief with the hands, with the body, with the organs that are used to worship the Almighty Allah. The quote continues. He said in another quote, the same scholar, "Deen Allah yakun ala al-qalb." The religion of Allah is based on the heart with three things. Bil-i'tiqad, with the belief. Bil-hub, with love. Bil-bughd, with hate. For me to believe that Allah is the one who provides me, for me to believe that Allah alone deserves to be worshipped, and for me to love Allah, and to love those who worship Allah, and for me to hate those who oppose Allah, the devil, for me to hate his path, to hate to fall into his path, and to hate those who fall into his path while knowing that they have fell into his path. That is how the religion of the Almighty Allah is accomplished. We will conclude it with that, and we have benefited, inshaAllah, from this episode. What is one thing you gained from this episode?
I'm grateful for the thought of the three evidences of faith.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you.
May Allah bring us closer to Him, and may He allow us to worship Him in the right way. He alone deserves to be worshipped, and that is the reason we were created. Thank you for watching this episode. Until next time, inshaAllah, this is your brother Rayan Arab. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Dark night in the sky, you cannot see a butterfly. Look through the window, realize all you see is for you and I. In your dreams, through the nights, every moment that passes by, look to the heavens, hands spread wide, thanking Allah the Most High. There is no God but Allah, Muhammad is His messenger. There is no God but Allah, Muhammad is His messenger.